Hi, this is Heidi from BlackHawk Paramotor. I have been working at BlackHawk for a number of years, and for those of you that don't know, I'm in charge of the majority of the sales, domestic and international, for the company. And over the course of my time here, I spend a lot of time on email, on the phone, answering people's questions, and we get a number of questions that have to do with gliders. So I thought this would be a great time to wrangle Mike up from the shop, bring him on up here, and talk about the most frequently asked questions in regards to our gliders. Mike, where are most paragliders, or gliders in general, made?
It used to be that many of the prospective glider companies built in their homeland, so to speak, such as Poland, Czechoslovakia, Austria, Germany. Many or most of the manufacturers are now building out of China and Vietnam.
Okay, but let's clarify to those of you that are listening, where are our gliders made?
Our gliders are made in Korea. There are several manufacturers that still make their gliders in Korea, and our Velocity brand of glider is one of them.
So why haven't we taken the manufacturing of our gliders over to China?
My thoughts are you don't fix something that's not broken. I don't have good experience with the quality that comes from China. We've never had any problems with the gliders that are made in Korea. In fact, I think Korea's quality overall of everything that they manufacture is second to that of Japan. And I have absolutely no problem with the quality of products that come from Japan.
I'm assuming the cost of producing gliders in China is way less than producing them in Korea. So why have we chosen to stay with our glider shop in Korea?
Again, we go back to the very beginning. We've used them since 1998. We don't have any issues with the quality. The lots of fabric colors are always identical. They're not combining the lots and giving you different shades of color on each glider. They're not looking to cut corners. China, Vietnam cut corners. That's how they make money. They negotiate a deal with you and they give you as little as possible back. And Korea doesn't do that. Regarding cost, what's the price difference actually? It's probably a couple $100s per glider. I don't care about a couple $100s. I want consistency and I want the customers happy. Until Korea proves otherwise, I won't move away from Korea.
You know, I get some customers that call me and say they're looking at other competitors, but those competitors don't offer a glider in their package price like we do. So they're quoted a price for the motor and frame, but then on top of that, they're also quoted a price from anywhere from $3,000 to $4,000, $5,000 more to get this glider that honestly appears to be way more advanced than what they're capable of flying for a new pilot. So tell me your thoughts about that.
That does happen quite a bit. And I can tell you why. It's about money. I think that many of these guys don't care so much about the consumer, the potential pilot, new pilot, as they do about their pocketbook. It's simple. They make X amount of dollars on the paramotor sale. If they sell you another glider, it's another $700 to $1,000 in profit to them. We have one price, it includes the glider. As you know, we sell our glider in a package. It only costs the consumer $1,000. It costs us way more than $1,000 to produce. Two reasons why we do that. One is we know they're going to be safe, and then we know that they're going to have a smile on their face. Number two, brand name recognition. It's what initially put Paratoys on the map, and now BlackHawk and Velocity. We want to sell you equipment that will make you successful, put a smile on your face, you're not afraid to land, they're easy to take off on, and then later perhaps you can move up to a different glider. But often the guys will stick with their original Edge glider for many, many years.
Okay, so let's continue on this topic a little bit in regards to packages and gliders. I have customers that have called me and said that they were offered this certain kind of package, but they needed to get this other kind of wing that appeared to be more advanced than what they should be flying. So why is this the case? Tell me about that.
And more expensive too, right?
Yeah.
Well, once again, it comes down to money. They're making more money selling a person a more advanced, more expensive glider. Reality, our average age fellow that we're selling to is 55 and weighs 220 pounds. He's not dumb, he's wise. He realizes that he wants to be safe, he wants to get off the ground easily, he wants to get back on the ground gently, he wants to continue to fly. How many people have we seen in the air on a more advanced glider or a reflex glider that were afraid to come in and land? Yeah. I've seen them come down many, many times to land, only to gas back up and go back up because they're scared to death. That's not fun. This sport is about exploration, low and slow, that great carvy, floaty feeling, not flying around like some of the young whippersnappers, so to speak, and doing low-level wing overs or acro-ish type of maneuvers, which are totally unsafe anyway. That's not the average guy. 95% of us, probably more, just want to fly low and slow and reminisce over that beautiful launch or that great landing that they had. That's what this sport's all about.
Often the people that are calling manufacturers really don't know anything about the sport, and so they rely on this individual to give them solid, good information as a new pilot.
Are you talking about manufacturers or dealers for manufacturers, or maybe both?
Probably more dealers.
That's correct. Many dealers, so-called dealers in the U.S., have second jobs or primary jobs, so to speak. Are they truly professional? Are they truly experienced at selling the gear? Me personally, I think you need to know how to manufacture a cage, you need to know how to manufacture a glider, you need to know everything about the motors for you to become a true expert. And then you have to have an open mind to where you're still willing to learn and listen to, one, the consumer, to further your growth in the field. And I think that's one thing that we really concentrate on. I don't think anybody's produced more products than we have in the last 5 years, period. Mm-hmm. And I will tell you honestly that that's mainly from me watching students on the field and listening and talking to them. It's really pretty simple. Common sense goes a long ways. So to answer your question, it's tough. It's tough for somebody who's calling somebody and they feel that that person is a know-it-all, and I don't mean that in a derogatory fashion. I mean that person's very experienced, when in reality that's not the case. How do we combat that? I don't know. I think videos such as the one you suggested here is a good way to get the word out. If anything that we say or discuss today doesn't make sense to somebody, then don't use it or call us out on it, so to speak.
You know, you make some really good points, and I've heard you so many times on the phone when you're talking to customers that they should just keep the money in their pocket in regards to upgrading their glider to something that might be too advanced for them. We do offer a variety of gliders, the beginner to intermediate, and advanced wings, but even those that are considering upgrading to the Electra, I've heard you tell them to keep the money in the pocket. Why do you do that?
I feel it's a responsibility to business, and what I mean by that is it's my responsibility as a business to give them good, solid advice. I'm not here to take money out of their pocket. I'm here to put the smile on their face. And if I don't do that, then I don't feel that I did my job. And I know I've heard you on the phone as well. You are very much the same that I am. You give good, solid advice, honest advice. Often they'll want to get a bigger motor. What's the reason for a bigger motor if you don't weigh enough to really utilize that motor? A bigger motor is only a higher rate of climb. Doesn't make you go faster, doesn't do anything else for you other than give you a higher rate of climb. It uses more gas, it makes more noise, it vibrates more. So there's advantages and disadvantages. Often I'll tell them, hey, the 125 is a better motor for you. However, if you call me back later and decide that you just want the bigger motor, that's okay. I'm fine with that. I did my job by explaining the pros and cons for both. Same thing with gliders. Often an older fella, for instance, in their 40s, and I'm 55 so I could be in the group, but in their 40s, for instance, don't need a more advanced glider. They just want to fly. So for $1,000, take it. A year and a half from now, you can sell it for $1,500 and upgrade to an Electra or something else if you want. So yeah, I live by the adage, keep your money in your pocket. Keep it simple.
I've received various phone calls here and there from customers who have spoken to other dealers, manufacturers, and those individuals have told these potential customers to not purchase our Velocity line of gliders, but that they should be purchasing another brand. Can you touch on that?
Again, it comes down to somebody trying to garner a sale. So often they'll speak negatively about other people's gliders or equipment or what have you in order to make a sale. So that's just something that we live with. Often you'll hear that, oh, their gliders are made in China. Well, our gliders are not made in China. And in fact, our gliders were the first to use Domenico, which is now used by Ozone, Sky, many of the upper end gliders as well. And we were amongst the first to use the loop within a loop riser, anti-torque system. We've had a number of firsts in glider development. Look at the Nitro. There's not another glider on the planet like the Nitro. So what do you say? I mean, you can't really combat that. It's going to happen. Our gliders are amongst the very best in the industry. With that said, there are some very good gliders. There's a lot of manufacturers that make a darn nice glider.
I know that you have plenty of experience flying other manufacturers' gliders over the number of years that you've been in the industry. So tell me a little bit about that. Why have you done that?
Well, that's a big part of our development program is we try to fly every new glider that's out there. And as I mentioned earlier, some of them are really nice gliders and some of them aren't so great, in our personal opinion. It helps me develop gliders or figure out where glider development is going. And honestly, every year manufacturers are coming out with the greatest thing since sliced bread, and that's baloney. Often that same model either gets changed a lot the following year or it disappears. And I think it comes down to glider sales. They've not changed that much.
In the amount of time that I've been here, there's been some tweaks here and there with some of the gliders, the change from the Recon to now the Nitro. We have the Electra and the Edge, but overall there hasn't been that many changes to our gliders, and it appears it's because they do the job. I mean, they're good gliders. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I'm not going to come out with a new glider just to come out with a new glider and throw some hype out there and make some additional sales. Again, my responsibility is to the business of powered paragliding or paragliding, and that's to provide the gliders to the customers that work. Our gliders are exceptional, so there's been very little reason to change or come up with new models, etc.
Okay, so we've talked about different kinds of gliders that are out there, but our belief is that a new pilot should be purchasing a beginner glider, and for us that beginner glider is the Edge. So let's talk about the versatility of the Edge glider.
The Edge is a very versatile glider. A lot of manufacturers or dealers are trying to sell you on Reflex Technology, and you can learn on Reflex, etc., etc., etc. A beginner glider is a beginner glider. It's going to get you off the ground easy. It's going to be easy to handle on the ground, which, as you know, is the most important thing. If you can't kite, you can't launch. If you can't handle your glider, then landings are much more difficult. Slow landings are much easier to handle for a beginner than a fast landing is. But regarding versatility of an Edge glider, what is the glider that we use in all of our SIV and beginner acro?
The Edge glider.
So my point is, when that beginner can go out and do sats and wing overs, stall his glider, collapse it, etc., then maybe he's ready to move on. Because the Edge glider will do that and more and keep you safe. So learn to fly the glider that you've got. Make that glider look good. She'll do it for you.
I know that our instructors on the boat tows, if they don't know the person that they're going to be towing up or their glider, they'll always give them an Edge. Why is that?
They know the glider. They know that the glider is going to keep that pilot safe. They don't know the pilot, and they don't know how he might react to, let's say, a stall or a collapse or something like that. So there's definitely some solid familiarity with the Edge glider, and often that same pilot stays with the Edge throughout his training or throughout the SIV clinic.
Now, I know that the Edge is our beginner glider, but we also offer an upgrade to the Electra, which is our beginner intermediate wing. So why is it that sometimes we often suggest that a new pilot, consider that upgrade?
Well, that's a really good question, and we call it our upper beginner glider, by the way. If the person is very athletic, typically younger, maybe raced dirt bikes, into snowmobiles, you can just tell that kind of person. they can learn on the Electra quite easily. But remember, that glider is faster, it's much more agile, it's very easy to launch, it's fun to land, but it's not as forgiving as the Edge glider is. So I'm often concerned about somebody that's not in great shape, maybe older. Their mentality is I'm going to get this really quick, I want something more advanced. I try to subdue them and just keep them on the edge, which comes back to it's only $1,000 a year from now. Sell it for $1,500, a year and a half, sell it for $1,500, and then get something else. That usually works at keeping them firmly balanced with their thought process regarding their purchase.
Right. Well, that brings up another question then. Oftentimes, after I send a quote out to somebody or talk with them over the phone, they'll contact me back and say, well, wait a minute, I don't understand why the Electra is a $1,900 upgrade.
Well, as you know, the Electra is a very advanced glider. There's a lot more cells. There's Delron stiffeners in the trailing edge. There's Delron battens in the leading edge. That glider takes 93 hours to make one glider. Not to say that the Edge isn't a sophisticated glider. For a beginner glider, it's the leader of the pack. But it takes half the time to make that glider as it does the Electra. The other thing is we sell, over 1,000 Edge gliders a year. So the shop is able to cut 20 or 30 patterns of one color at one time, and then cut 20 or 30 patterns of another at another time. We don't sell as many Electras as we do Edges, therefore the cost to produce the glider goes up dramatically. And I can't give away an Electra glider for $1,000, or any more gliders for that matter, for $1,000 when they cost me far more than that to produce.
Can you explain to potential customers what Reflex Technology is, and then talk about why some dealers are pushing Reflex wings onto new pilots?
Okay. Well, Reflex Technology has been around for really quite some time. I've flown Reflex for a long, long time. In short, Reflex Technology is a type of manufacturing of the glider that when you go into Reflex, it kicks the tail up, the trailing edge of the glider up, and as the wind passes over the top of the glider, it creates a down pressure. That allows the glider to fly in less of an angle of attack. In other words, traditional glider and a reflex glider. More penetration means more speed. Initially, reflex was developed for cross country, where if you went into the reflex mode, you were able to gather more speed and go longer distances. The key there is do we want to go faster but suck our fuel? In reflex, we usually went 2 sizes or at least 1 size larger on the glider that we would normally fly. That way when we went into reflex and we had to increase our RPMs to maintain straight and level flight, now we didn't, because if we went a couple sizes larger or a size larger, then we could maintain the same RPMs that we did before, utilize the same amount of fuel, yet go farther. I'm 165 pounds. For my serious cross countries, I was flying a size 29. I normally fly a size 23 to 25 in normal gliders, classic style glider. Now, I think all safety and rationale has been thrown out the roof. You've got guys that weigh 220 pounds flying size 20 square meter gliders, and all they do is patrol around the airstrip, flying fast and jerking and snatching on their glider. Very unsafe. They're over revving their engines, which, as you know, a 2-stroke engine doesn't like heat. The more RPMs you run, the hotter the engine gets. The engine's not going to last long. And then when you get down to fuel economy, you're not getting very good fuel economy, but a lot of those guys don't go anywhere anyway, so I don't know how relevant that is. But and the other thing to maybe consider with reflex is that it's fairly safe, but when reflex technology lets go, in other words, you suffer a collapse, they're very dynamic, and the recovery time is a lot longer than that of a classic glider. So if you're flying low altitude, the chance of a recovery of that glider before you unfortunately hit the ground is not likely. So that's a completely different topic. I'm starting to see the sport move back to a more traditional, a little bit larger glider philosophy in this last year, namely because of some deaths or some serious injuries. Reflex Technology being sold to beginners. It's all about money. Somebody wants to put more money in their pocket. You do not teach a beginner on a reflex glider. The takeoffs are faster. The landings are much faster. If a guy's never landed before and he's coming in at 25 miles an hour, what's he going to do? You know, as we talked about earlier, we've seen guys flying around the airstrip afraid to come down and land because every time they did, they were going too fast. They knew that they were going to crash. That's not cool. That's not fun. And that's not safe. And that's not what people are spending all this money to do. They just want to fly. So, again, that's a completely different topic in my book because I'm not happy with the way the reflex technology is being pushed. We all fly reflex. All the team pilots, including yourself, fly the nitros. We do a lot of serious cross country, more serious than anybody else that I know of in the States. Often our trips are 300 plus miles. I fly at 25. I weigh nothing. You fly at 22, I believe. You weigh 130, 135 pounds. I'm not 220 pounds flying a size 20 reflex glider. I get good fuel mileage. I run good RPMs on my nitro. It's very safe. In the event of a collapse, it's going to recover much faster than a smaller glider would. I know some people say, hey, smaller gliders don't collapse as easy. You got to compare a small glider to a very large glider to get any kind of comparison there. If you're on a proper size glider versus a small glider, the chances of either collapsing are very minimal. However, the small glider is going to become extremely dynamic because the G-forces are going to go out the roof. I know of guys that have actually collapsed and passed out. That's not active piloting. You're out. So I guess maybe a little bit of prayer that the glider opens before you hit the ground. It's not good. But again, I think it really comes down to selling you the next greatest thing since sliced bread and putting some more money in your pocket. We don't do that here.
Okay, so let's talk about this sizing thing. I know that we have previously recorded a video about how to size a glider for potential pilots, but let's talk about that a little bit more.
Okay. One, you need to consider your age. If you're an older fella, I don't care how good a shape you're in, you're not in the shape you were when you were 25. A bigger glider. It's going to give you exactly what you want, that floaty feeling, easy off the ground, easy on the ground, easy to kite. You're good. So your age is considered. Obviously, your weight is considered. Thirdly is your altitude. If you live in New Mexico, you need a bigger glider. You may even need a bigger motor. So those are the things to consider. When you call us, we go over all of that stuff with you. That's very, very important, making sure that the equipment is sized properly. Regarding just the general sizing, 9.5 pounds to 10.5 pounds per square meter. You can go to 11.5 pounds per square meter if you're like on the beach in a windier area such as Florida.
Well, then why is it that guys that are almost twice my weight, flying wings my size or even smaller?
Well, okay, as you know, we just the other day had a fella that was sold a 22 square meter glider. I'm not going to mention the manufacturer, and he can't get off the ground. Now he's stuck with that purchase. So what did he purchase? He just purchased an Edge, the proper glider that he should have purchased in the very beginning, and he acknowledged that.
So why then are they pushing such small gliders on these big men?